Great, thank you, Jared. Good on you. Right, okay. Welcome back, everyone. Can I now welcome Mr. Andrew Bishop, and for the Hansard record, if you could please state your name and the capacity in which you appear today.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. I am Andrew Bishop, and I'm here just to present some evidence to the committee as on the perspective of a driver that's been doing long distance work for a while.
Tremendous. And for the public record, I have a relationship with Andrew. Him and I have known each other for a number of years. And I'll just ask the committee that there is a request if we could take a photo of Andrew. So, Ben, you know the rules, mate. Okay, thank you. All right, now, Andrew, fill us in, mate. This is your moment to tell us everything that you want the committee to hear.
Yeah. Okay, well, there's quite a few issues I'd actually like to discuss with the committee today on the driver's perspective. A lot of it goes around the pay rates and the way the awards are actually set up. I think the provision of a cents per kilometre award, or part of the agreements and awards, it's terrible. It actually forces drivers to break the law. A lot of companies don't pay properly when it comes to loading and unloading times, or they might only pay you 1 hour, but I've been driving a B double. 36 pallet vehicle for the last few months, running interstate between Melbourne and Sydney, Melbourne and Newcastle, and most of the time it would take us about 2.5 hours to load the vehicle, and I've got no evidence on my pay slips at all as to where I've been paid for that sort of time. We also get told that we were not going to get paid for any delays, so if we've got a queue up, and I had one instance where I was queuing up for 7 hours to get loaded, and then expected to still get the load through to Melbourne the next morning. Now, how do you do that? Now, it was a hot day.
Yeah.
You can't go to bed, and I'd already slept all night. I can't go back to bed because as the queue moves, I've got to move the truck up. Now, that was 7 hours of my work day, which is unpaid.
And accumulating against your fatigue management.
Well, it's actually forcing me to break the law, which is common in the industry, because if you mark that sort of time down when you're being paid by the kilometre, where's your money? You're not making any money for the day. So I'm being forced to break the law and not put that down as work time, so as I can then go and drive as far as I can. And generally I'd work until I got tired. And then I'd just pull up and I'd go to bed. I'd generally try to go to bed around 11:30, 12 o'clock each night, and I'd be on the road again by 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'd work through till 11:30 at night. So they're huge hours, and you're being forced to do it because you're not being paid for delays.
What was the reason, Andrew? Were you told, look, it's a loaded question because I've heard it so many times and I just need to get this out. Is the excuse you're not getting paid for loading, even though you're expected to move the truck, which was said very clearly from Rod earlier on today? If you don't, people will go around you. Is it because your kilometre rate covers all that?
Well, they don't. Paying? Well, I've actually brought here my letter of employment from the last employer that I only left 2 days ago, and it actually does say in here that I will get paid for loading and unloading the vehicle. But on my payslip, which I've also got here, it doesn't make any mention of it. Now, the payslip does say, or even my letter of employment, it says I'll be paid on a weekly rate of a B double rate at $23.33 for 38 hours, and then they work it out over a trip rate, and so forth.
Which cancels it out.
Yeah, it cancels it all out. The cents per kilometre rate is 46.10.
That's what you were paid?
Well, it's hard to tell with the way these pay slips are actually marked out.
Is it not a case of you were driving prime mover number blah blah, taking trailer numbers blah blah, doing from point A to point B times 46.1 cents equals?
Well, that's something that I haven't had time to look into at this stage, because I'd leave home on a Sunday afternoon and not get home till late Friday night, Saturday morning. And then by the time I'd try to catch up on some sleep and have some time with the wife, I haven't had time at this stage to work out exactly how the pay rate's been worked, but I've already identified that the pay rate's just it's not there. The letter of employment that I've got here actually says remuneration will not be paid or limited for time spent waiting for instructions, waiting for customers to open, or vehicles in front and queuing time. So there it is straight away. Where I had that 7-hour wait, it says here that I am not going to get paid for that. Who else is going to be trapped effectively in a work site and not get paid for 7 hours? It's the driver. Okay, and as your last witness was saying, a lot of it goes back down to the driver. They're only a driver. Don't worry about them so much. As far as I'm concerned, a lot of companies consider you to be a second-class citizen because they just treat you, like rubbish. They expect you to get the job done. After that 7-hour break, which happened to be up at Summersby, just outside of Gosford, I then drove down, and unfortunately I broke down at Coolac, which is just north of Gundagai. I rang our mechanic, and I said to him, I've only had about another half an hour left on my book anyway until I was due to pull up. This is about midnight. We made a decision. I'll have my 7-hour break, and then we'll try to deal with it after that. But schedulers of the company, when I rang up in the morning, well, why didn't you get it fixed during the night? You've had 7 hours.
Why didn't you fix it?
Well, why didn't we get it fixed?
Oh, well, yeah, okay.
I'm driving a cab over truck. How am I going to sleep?
Couldn't you lay on the road?
Yeah, but this is the expectation of the companies. During my 7-hour break to get a truck fixed where I'm not going to be able to rest.
So, Andrew, so it's very clear in my head and Senator Rennick's head and those listening. So, when you say the company, do you mean the client you were carting for?
No, the employer. The employer that I was working for.
Who knew you had a cab over?
Yeah, knew I had a cab over truck, and they're the ones I communicate with. And the comment was, well, you should have had it fixed overnight. Well, when am I going to sleep?
Yeah, okay. So I don't want to cut you off, but is this prevalent throughout the area? Or
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because the companies look at it, if the wheels aren't turning, the truck's not making money. So you just do what you do. I was given a job where I was getting to Melbourne with a previous load. I arrived in Melbourne about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. By the time I queued up to go and get unloaded, which was unpaid time.
This is at a warehouse?
It was going into a distribution centre.
Okay.
I was there for nearly 4 hours. Then I had to take the trailers around to another company, assist in the loading of it. For an express freight to go through to Canberra. And I told my employer...
After you've just come straight through?
Yep. I told my employer that the day before that I was going to be out of hours. And he said, just make it work. So you're being pushed. So I left Melbourne. I drove to Glenrowan.
Yep.
I went to bed for 7.5 hours. The company lost that contract because I was due in at 6 o'clock in the morning. I arrived at 2 o'clock in the afternoon in Canberra. Because I just won't do it. My life is more important than any of their freight and their business, as far as I'm concerned. Because without a driver, they've got no business. And that's the way, even to this day, you're still being pushed as a driver, it's just not on. It's not on. And this is where it really needs to be forced, against these companies.
And if I can, Andrew, if I may, and if I'm adding through commentary as we go, very mindful how it all works. And would it be fair to say that and I'm not protecting employers who encourage or force drivers to break, never would I, but I'm also very mindful that some so-and-so at the top of the chain has got to take responsibility.
That's right.
And from Gordo's evidence earlier, the chain of responsibility. So that was a classic example where the contract or the company contracting to the major employer had a driver who would not risk himself. So the job's gone.
Yeah.
All right, the job's gone. They've lost it. Now, what guarantee do we have, and I know you don't have the answer, that the next incoming transport company doesn't have the same pressure put upon them?
Yeah, there is none.
We have none.
There is none.
So what we've got here is light the fuse and let's just hope we don't run out of string before everything blows up.
Well, that's right. Well, I was actually told by my employer, all the other drivers just get it done, so get it done.
What was the reaction when you got in? So when the contract was lost, was there any ramification back on you?
No, there's nothing that really came back. They just...
Yeah, sure.
They're struggling for drivers as it is, so I don't think that they could really afford to terminate me over it, because otherwise it's another truck off the road.
And where I'm leading to, Senator Rennick, I mean, you know, this Senate committee knows, we know darn well, when issues of safety are raised with us, whether it be aviation or whatever, we can't just go, oh, give that document back, we don't want to know.
Yeah.
It's been brought to our attention. The sad part that is uncovering here, and this is only day one of the inquiry, but it's been around for many, many years, there is always someone else who will fill the shoes.
That's right.
And they'll be lining up to fill the shoes. And while this is going, and we all do this, cover our eyes and turn a blind eye, my fear is what happens when that driver does do it and then there's an accident and a death?
Well,
Have you
that's right.
experienced anything like that?
A lot of the time they'll try to pin it on the driver.
Well, I don't know about try, they would, wouldn't they?
Yeah, well, yeah, most of the times they do, because, yeah, but that's what chain of responsibility is about, to try to overcome that. But
Sure.
the companies and the directors of companies will still try to manoeuvre around, so it looks like it's all the driver's fault. Well, we never told him to do that.
Well, not only that, we have the issue too that when we have the stand-up drivers and the stand-up companies who say,
Yes.
I'm not going to put myself or my drivers or other road users at that risk. They're the ones that are penalised.
That's right. That's
So
right.
you could go, sorry,
Yeah.
Andrew.
So other issues I have is that the companies, once again, got to keep the wheels moving, and the maintenance of the vehicles is very poor. I've had issues with the truck that I've been driving with ABS and ESC, electronic stability control, not working properly. The warning lights come up on the dash. I reported it. The problem I'd have with this is that I'd come in on a Sunday afternoon, jump in the truck and the lights are off. So it's been fixed on Saturday morning when the workshop's in.
The warning light.
Yeah, the warning lights are off. I'll get an hour up the road, bang, they're on again. So by that stage it's too late for me to do anything about it. And they just won't take trucks off the road. I actually, and if the company is listening at the moment, or you're going to read the Hansard on this, they're not going to be too impressed, because a couple of weeks ago I went through the weighbridge at Marulan, and you've got a weigh in motion, and it told me to return to the highway, and I said no, and I just took it straight into the weighbridge. And I pulled up and I spoke to the RMS inspectors and said I'd like the truck inspected, and they actually defected the prime mover. Gave us 3 days to get the repairs done.
What was wrong with it?
To be honest, I can't actually remember what was wrong with the prime mover, but the trailer, or the trailers, because it was a B-double combination, they actually did the right thing by me. They asked me where I was going to. I said, well, Lowe's going to Melbourne. This is a Friday night. I said, but I'm going to the border for the weekend, but my logbook runs out by the time I get to Gundagai. So I'll have a 7-hour break there. So their response was, we don't want to disadvantage you for doing the right thing. So they gave me 24 hours to get home. And then the truck was off the road. Little did I know that they had brake adjusters or slack adjusters hanging off underneath the trailers, because that's not part of your normal daily inspection. Some of the brakes were that bad, they needed to be adjusted again. And these are things of maintenance just not being done. And that was meant to have been repaired on the Saturday when I got it back. I took the truck in on Monday morning to a local place to get it signed off. It got knocked back. So I'm sitting there from 8 o'clock in the morning till nearly 1 o'clock in the afternoon, waiting for it all to be repaired properly. At least the truck got fixed, but that's time that I'm sitting there, and once again, I'm not being paid for. But I'm not at home resting, I'm waiting for a truck. I'm at work.
And then, God help us, there may have been adjustments to the actual recorded hours of work too.
Well, that's right. So, but see there, I didn't, because I rang the place where I was delivering to, and they said if I was there by 4 o'clock I could get unloaded, and I said, well, I've got 3 hours and 10 minutes. It's not coming. I'll see you tomorrow. So I just came home. So that little bit of driving which I did from our yard down to the mechanics, I couldn't put in my work diary, because that would just mess up my whole time.
Can I just take this opportunity, Andrew, just to come in on behalf of Senator Rennick and myself And I'm just going to read a line from an opening statement. Now, I have not asked you who that company is. I'll find out.
Yep.
But I've not asked you on the public record, and you don't have to give it to me. I'm not asking you for it. But I just want to reiterate, and this is standing orders of the Senate, before the committee starts taking evidence, that I actually remind all witnesses that in giving evidence that you are protected by parliamentary privilege.
Yes.
It is unlawful for anyone to threaten or disadvantage a witness on account of evidence given to a committee, and such action may be treated by the Senate as a contempt.
Yes.
So if there is any blowback, you need to contact the Senate committee.
Oh,
okay?
there's no problems. Yeah, I am aware of that.
Yep.
And thank you for...
But I didn't do that for you.
Yep.
I'm reiterating to someone else who may be listening and reading the Hansard down the track and then think that someone might want to disadvantage or threaten you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So
and
I
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So then, a lot of the issues I find within the industry are, revolved around pay rates, delays, and so forth, and being inadvertently or ineffectively, you're forced to break the law. As the previous gentleman was saying too about, the work diaries. The work diary, designed by someone that's probably never ever been on the road, tells me when I have to stop and sleep. Yet I could be feeling great. I had an incident not long ago. I pulled up, I went to bed for 7 hours. I got up about 2 o'clock in the morning. I drove for 2 hours. I felt tired. I went back to bed for 4 hours, and that totally messed up my book for the next couple of days. And effectively that day, if I remember correctly, I worked 8 hours of driving time, but my book had said I was out of time. So how does that work? I felt good. I'd had that extra little bit of sleep, which I needed, and that's where drivers need to be able to give them that bit more flexibility to manage their own hours. Sure enough, you can only do so many so many hours in a day, but how those hours are done should be up to the driver, because the driver knows their body and how they're going to operate.
I wouldn't dare preempt the recommendations of the committee. I couldn't dare do that because we haven't heard all the evidence and we haven't finished, and we will collegiately work together. But I think it's now time for in this nation to have another conversation about fatigue management, because it's coming through loud and clear.
Yes.
And it's a comment, Andrew, and I'll be very keen to get your feedback as one who didn't live under a regulated driving system until I crossed the border, and I hated it.
Yes.
But I understand why we must have some form of protection for the drivers and
yes.
for our transport companies. So, but unfortunately, we've got this one system catch-all that just drags us all in. And as previous witnesses have said, we're all different.
Yes.
None of us leave home to go and run over cars or kill ourselves or other people.
Well, that's right.
So how would you see a fatigue management system working that could be, more importantly, advantageous to the drivers?
Well,
it
needs to be a bit more flexibility in it, because as it's already been put up to the committee, that if we go over our maximum work hours for the day, we may as well have worked for the whole week for free, because the fines are that big. There's not another industry that gets penalised as much as what a truck driver does.
That's the third time we've heard that today. You keep going.
Yeah, well, it is.
Yeah.
For minor little mistakes, if I make an administrative error in making entries in my work diary, which could be because it's dark, I may not be looking properly at the time when I put the entries in, but if my work diary gets inspected, I could lose a week's pay for it. $600-700, bang, gone.
Yeah.
Do you get a fine for making a simple spelling mistake?
If the Senate was fined every time I spelled something wrong, mate, I'd tell you I couldn't get over the bank line.
Yeah. Okay, but that's a perfect example. Where else can you be fined for making a simple clerical mistake? It's an honest mistake. It's not like you're going out there to do it.
And that's here in New South Wales, or
it's all over the place with the National Work Diary. It doesn't matter where you are. If you get picked up on a mistake, or you might be 15 minutes over in your time, you're gone. You're gone. Now, another aspect I'd like to speak about is the design of some of the rest areas for long distance drivers.
Fire away.
If you spend a bit of time driving up and down the Hume Highway, and especially from Albury through to Sydney, most of the rest areas are actually built on hills. So how many times do you go home and sleep in a bed that's on an angle?
Well, since my teenage days, but yes.
Yeah. But you pull up, and some of the hills are quite steep, and you climb into bed and you can feel yourself, starting to roll. How do you get a proper sleep when you're trying to sort of balance in a bunk?
So it would be nice if there was consultation with those that use
yeah.
the rest areas to sleep.
Put them on flatter areas. I know I've been within my legal driving times, but I'm starting to feel fatigued, and the next rest area, I'm not going to pull up in there because that's on a hill, whereas the one 30 minutes down the road is on a flat ground, and I'm going to get a better sleep. But then I'm being forced to run the gauntlet against my own fatigue to get to a spot where I can get a better sleep. It's not on. It was mentioned before about the size of the bunks. Some of the trucks now that you're expected to sleep in, and I've been in them, I can't even lay down flat on my back because my shoulder will be up against the back wall of the cab, and my other shoulder will be up against the seat, the driver's seat. How much room is there to get a good quality sleep? It's just ridiculous. How do
you fix that, Andrew? Well, if you had the levers of Treasury, how do we fix that? Right?
Well, it's been put up already to the committee that the size of the vehicles, which will allow larger, sleeper bunks to be on these vehicles. Okay, and instead of companies doing as they've done, where they've gone from a 34 pallet vehicle to a 36, because we've got this extra space, they take that for their freight. Let's not worry about the driver. No, let's make sure that this goes towards the driver, and we've got vehicles. I've been driving a cab over vehicle, and as was said, the last gentleman was in, hate cab over vehicles. You've got no protection in front of you, but the companies are forcing you to drive those so as they can get the extra freight in. And it's all about the money that they're earning, not about the driver's safety. And these things need to be looked at. The facilities that we have within these vehicles, some of them, it's like sleeping on a rock. The mattresses in them, and there's just no room to move. So there needs to be rules brought in that there's a minimum standard, which is currently a lot bigger than what we've currently got at the moment.
It's an interesting argument because we have all this impost upon the drivers to be as safe as possible, which we absolutely want. There's no argument about that. We go on the sites, we're not allowed on sites unless we've got all the bells and whistles, and we have to put on this some of the stuff that we think to ourselves, why am I wearing a hard hat? Is it because a magpie might poop on me when I'm in the middle of the yard? And I'm not allowed back on the back of my trailer unless I'm harnessed and all this sort of stuff. But a basic fundamental, that's fine. Where's our occupational health and safety? And one is, where is the opportunity for us to have a quality sleep, which is not even in the lexicon or the language of the Australian regulatory road transport, all sorts of stuff. So I think that's a very important point that you raise. I get the cab over argument, because I always thought my legs were going to fall off every time, and I've had both.
Well, I've said to my wife that if I'm in an accident, I'm gone, because in a cab over you just got no protection. At least in the bottom of the truck, you've got that little bit of a buffer zone there to protect you. Yeah,
and I'm sure that will start an argument that will there'll be that many angles coming from the argument upon that too. But I think that we need to, and it's great to hear. It's more important for me. It's more important to hear from the drivers, the men and women out there, got the sweat on the brow and the hands on the steering wheel.
Yes.
And the other argument's white noise at the moment, and just as important as they will bring issues too. I get all that, but I think, as I said earlier, that I always say we, because I still pretend I'm part of the industry, even though the closest connection I've got to me mates still in it, my young blokes still in it. But we are bottom feeders.
Yes.
This is the sad part. We are price takers. We're the last link in the chain, and the only time we make the front page is when someone's got run over. That's right. It's not our fault. Or in our case, when we used to run the convoy for kids, and what the biggest problem we had? We blocked the roads. How greedy were we while we were raising money for kids in wheelchairs and all that sort of stuff. So I want you to keep going, Andrew, but bearing in mind, I'm also looking for solutions. We're looking for solutions, mate. And one of the things I think would be a great one is if someone started talking to the drivers. It actually would be a good thing when we're designing truck bays and designing sleeper cabs.
Well, it needs to be consulted.
Keep going, mate.
Those sorts of things, they do need to be consulted upon. They're designed by engineers and architects that have never been out and had to live in a truck. So, have that consultation going with the drivers. There's the avenues there to get in touch with them. It needs to be done.
Bit scary if we start asking the drivers, they might make sense. We don't want too much of that, do we?
No, we
being
can't.
very facetious,
I realise that we can't have too much sense coming out of it, can we?
No,
Because
that's right. Okay, keep going, Andrew.
all right, there's been mention about fatigue also. As you'd be well aware, the experts in sleep say the body should have on average 7 to 8 hours sleep a night. We're mandated to have a 7-hour break a night, and working at cents per kilometre, that's all you can have. By the time you pull up and you mark off that you pulled up for your start of your 7 hour, by the time you sort of wind down enough, get out, stretch the legs, and then get yourself organised, climb into the bunk, doze off to sleep, then set the alarm so you get up in the morning and you're ready to go right on your 7 hour, you're lucky if you're getting 6 hours sleep for the night. And then to work anything up to, if you're under basic fatigue, 14 hours, which is, as I mentioned before, you can't always put all the work down that you can, otherwise you don't get paid. You're working a lot longer. You'd be working 17-hour days on 6 hours. I'll have 6 hours sleep and I'll drive 1,100 kilometres for the day. So where's the safety in that?
Yeah.
It needs to be considered. So I just don't see how the two can sort of marry up when you got the experts saying you need so much sleep every night, and people that design these books say, well, no, you only need this much.
But I think, look, I'll ask you this one then. My experience tells me that when you're waiting on docks or distribution centres
Yes.
or clients' premises, if the clock's ticking, it's amazing how quick you can get in and get out again. So are we not part of the problem, we being the transport industry, if we're prepared as operators and the companies to just cop the smack in the mouth that we're not allowed to charge for loading and unloading? We're just exasperating the problem.
Yes, it is.
What's your
Just
thoughts
makes
on
it does make it worse for us, because the companies will say, well, we can't charge for any delays, so we're not going to pay you as a driver.
But I do know, I remember the blue coming off the waterfront in Perth, and as soon as we introduced it, there was enforceable minimum standard hourly rates. It's amazing how quick we got in and out.
Yeah.
And that's not having to go at the waterside workers. It's actually having someone to say, hang on, we'll have a system.
Well, I can give you an example. I went to a DC in Melbourne a couple of weeks ago, and I was dreading going there, because last time I went there, I was there for about 4 or 5 hours. That was many years ago. This time I went there, and I think I was in and out in an hour and a half, and I said I can't believe I'm out so quickly. And they actually did turn around and say, well, now we've got a 2-hour turnaround time. So there are some places, but other places you've got your time slot to get in there. If you're not there within a certain period of either side of that time slot, they'll turn you away. But if you pull up and you're on time, you go in there, they don't care how long you're there for, because you're there. So you could still be waiting for 3 hours to get unloaded, even though you've got a time slot. How does that work? And they just say, well, that's the way it is. That's building up on your fatigue also, especially you're going in there to unload, because then you've still got to go to your next pickup and go through it all again, and then still get the load through to its final destination. So.
All right, just come back to the road issue you started off with, or you opened up with, Andrew, and I'd ask, is it common around the region, the area?
I believe it is.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to get to, and it could help Senator Rennick and myself and the other senators who will join us in later inquiries, because to me that sends out the message that the problem's starting from the top.
They are.
And I don't mean the poor bugger who's put his life on the line, him and his wife, and they put the house on the line and bought their first truck, the second, the third, fourth and fifth, because they're decent, hard-working men and women, the majority of them. But if it says the whole region's in this whole squeeze, just some may be more rat-baggy than others, and some are trying to do a bit better than others. So if that's the case, would you agree then that this problem is not down here. It's not down here where all the operators and all the equipment is. It is up there.
I would say that, yes, it is coming from up at the top, because if the operators turn around and say, well, we need to charge you for these delays, well, the contracting companies will turn around and say, or the signees, they'll say, well, we've got so-and-so over here that'll do it for this, so we're not going to pay that.
Because it's not enforceable.
Yeah.
And I think
so it is being forced down right from the very top.
Because my old trucking head clicks back in every couple of seconds, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. But I think about, wouldn't it be lovely, Senator Rennick, if we could leave the auto electrician waiting out the front while the carpet layer's still finished, but we ain't going to pay you, mate, but you aren't going anywhere. Yeah. I just can't imagine a tradie coming around home saying, I'll sit here for 3 or 4 hours waiting to fix your leak.
Oh, that's right.
Without charging you.
Yeah. No, it won't happen.
Buggers charge before they even leave the depot.
They charge you as soon as they pick up the phone call, effectively. Yeah.
And you know what? That's not a bad thing. So why can't we have that?
It should be.
Especially when you've got 300, 400, 500,000 bucks worth of gear sitting out the front before we start talking.
That's right. Now, even last week, I got delayed down in Melbourne. I came out of Sydney and one of the pallets, the stock on it, collapsed during the trip. Not my fault, it's the stuff's actually collapsed. So then I've got arguments when I get to Melbourne that they're not going to unload this because it's damaged stock. Who's the one that's going to be, disadvantaged by it? It's me, because if they don't unload that pallet, I've then got to go and take it somewhere else. Which,
well, what do you do in that? I mean, this wouldn't be every day, but it wouldn't be a rare occurrence.
It's not a rare occurrence, and it was up to me to drive to another yard to drop that off, and I'm not being paid for this sort of thing. And then I've got to wait again for someone to come out and get it off the truck, and then close the truck up again, and then move around to the next pickup. That's all delays for me, which I'm not being paid for. So
neither does the company. Too.
Yeah.
And you think you had, and I don't know how many trucks the company's got. The problem just exasperates.
Well, that's right.
Worse, yeah.
That's right. So there's all those sorts of delays. Just instead of taking that pallet off and say putting it onto a local truck to zip it around, it's just disadvantage the long distance driver, because once he's off our side, he's not our responsibility. He's delivered the rest of the load. That's it. We don't care.
How's is there a driver shortage in New South Wales at the moment?
There is a driver shortage.
What do you put that down to, Andrew?
I'd put it down to the way the industry is actually run, the way you get pushed, and also the fact that it's not really much of a life for a young guy. If you want to spend some time at home, I'd effectively be home for one night, just about. And then I'd be gone again for another week. Because if I got home in time on a Friday, that Friday night was wasted because I was that tired I couldn't do anything. So I'd be home Saturday night with my wife, Sunday afternoon, depending where I was going, I'd be gone. So what sort of young guy wants to work like that?
Well, let's explore that a bit more, because I'm sure there would be people listening out there who would have no sympathy for the long distance truck driver.
Oh, they don't.
And they would probably think to themselves, we'll go get another job. And as we've heard, and I can attain to this, I entered the transport industry because my old man was a truckie. I learned at the hip of my old man. I was running around the truck, around the yard bare feet, and and as soon as you got back from the eastern states, Mum would say, get those boys out of my hair, they're going with you.
Yep.
And this is how most of us, a lot of us learn. In the good old days, which we can't do anymore now for a number of reasons. So when others are listening there, why don't we tell the public why you don't go looking for another career? Why do you want to stay in the transport industry?
Well, I do enjoy being on the road. I enjoy being out and virtually working. It's virtually unsupervised, because you're given your load and off you go, and you are expected to manage your own time. I enjoy working like that. All right, but doing the long distance stuff, no, I'm over it. I've just left the company 2 days ago that I was with, and I was lucky enough to start another job next week, which will have me home every day, but it's still in transport. So, I'll still be out there, but I can't see any real attraction for anyone to get into the long distance game. It's a hard industry to work in. It's long hours. Yes, there's some good money to be made, but if you got paid the correct way that you should be paying, as per the award, and I do think that they need to get rid of the cents per kilometre rate too. But you've got to do the long hours to make the good money.
So one of the problems I face is how do we attract young people into the industry? And if we talk to a majority of the older hands and all that, everyone will say the same thing. It's been a great industry. I love it, blah, blah, blah. And then when you get to a certain stage, it burns you out. It does burn you out. There's no argument about that. So you've just frightened the living daylights out of all the school kids now, Andrew.
Yes.
Okay, so plan B.
And there's a bigger shortage of drivers coming.
I'm being serious, mate, because I have my views, which you don't need to hear. Everyone, the rest of the world's heard my views. How do we attract young people into this industry, or those that may have left another industry and want a career change? Because listening to how our industry is going at the moment and how tough it's getting, and we all know that, but if we don't, who the hell's going to be moving all this freight? Because it ain't robots. Don't start me on robots or automated trucks. How do we do it, mate?
I couldn't give you any answers on how we could get people into it, because it's the way I see it, unfortunately at the moment, it's not that attractive if you're coming in, looking for long distance work. Probably the best of long distance work is just dock to dock, where you've got local drivers taking the freight out and picking up the freight, and all you do is you come in, you pick it up, your truck's already set up, it's loaded, and off you go. So that's a better way to manage your fatigue too. But as long as drivers have to go around in their trucks and do their deliveries, drive over to the next site, do another pick-up, and then go again. It's a hard yards to do, and I couldn't see any way at this stage how you could really attract people into the industry.
So what we are picking up, and it's unfair of me because I've been around it for a while, but what I am picking up, things are so much different than what they were in a number of places, and there's a number of operations now where drivers are drivers.
Yes.
And my young bloke's a triple road train operator in the West, and he is just a driver. And what I mean by that, this nonsense about, loading, unloading, sitting up on a mine site for 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, but it comes at a cost.
It does.
So, in your humble opinion, Andrew, who should pay for that?
Well, unfortunately, it's got to go through to the end user, doesn't it, the consumer in the end, which is unfortunate. But, as I heard being said in here before, everything in this room, even the water in this glass, has been on a truck.
At least once.
At least once. So, trucking is essential to the country, especially being such a big country, but we need to look after the drivers a lot more and make it a bit more attractive. Probably, the better pay rates and, the actual award, the long distance award is terrible. There's so many holes in it. And that cents per kilometre, I keep saying it, it's just encouraging people to break the law.
Well, I'll start a flurry of activity with the what do you call them, the keyboard warriors now, so they'll all be coming for me.
Yep.
Which is not the first time. But I have no problem. I have absolutely no problem, and I want to hear your view on this, Andrew, that we want our roads safe, we want our road users safe, we want our truck drivers safe, we want our truck drivers paid, remunerated properly. We want our owner drivers to be able to leave home and say goodbye and come back safely and earn a living, and by goodness me, have a profit. I want the same for our transport companies.
Yes.
So why aren't we allowed to talk about profit? Why should we hide behind the fact as 10 to 12% of GDP of this nation? Why aren't we allowed to talk about a profit? And why should we fear that, if that banana from Tully costs an extra 3 cents in Melbourne, why should we be embarrassed?
Well, I don't think we should be embarrassed at all, because all we're trying to do is get a good livelihood for ourselves and try to make the industry safe. And that needs to happen. It needs to be a little bit more attractive for people to come into.
Now
it is an ageing industry.
Absolutely. Now I'm going to have them all after me now, because I'm on the same belief. I think if that flat screen TV coming off the port at Fremantle, by the time it gets to Malaga in the warehouse and then to a Bigley or something, costs an extra $4, I don't care.
Yeah. You don't even notice that, do you?
The supply chain. This is the argument we don't have as a nation.
That's right.
We, the price takers at the end of the queue, are too busy trying to cover our own backsides, because why should we feel embarrassed because someone's got to pay an extra couple of rupiah for a loaf of bread or something?
Yeah, well, I can't understand how some of the pricing goes. few years ago, I worked in transport of fuel, and they'd say, well,
Don't start me on Shell and
well, I used to deliver for them, and and people would say about the price of fuel.
Oh, this BP too. Sorry, BP.
You'd have to
Caltex.
the transport of fuel, but you'd come up here to deliver fuel, and it'd be 20 cents a litre cheaper than what it was in Melbourne. So how can they run those arguments?
Well, shut up for a second and give Senator Rennick an opportunity. Sorry, Senator. Okay, now Andrew, I am watching the clock, mate, because we do have a tight time schedule today. We've got a couple more minutes, mate, and I'm notorious for running over. Is there anything in the last couple of minutes that you may have missed that you really want to put to the committee?
I think I've virtually covered off on everything that I wanted to talk about today. We do need to get probably a good training scheme up and involved in the industry to help develop
you
people.
You just frightened the living daylights out of all the school kids.
Well, I might have, but
It's all right, mate. Not at all.
If you have a look at it, people that are actually qualifying, done say an apprenticeship, they earn good money. There's no real training scheme for transport. You just come in, and the rates of pay in transport are terrible. If you just came in and worked an 8-hour day, you couldn't survive. So, for an example here, a B double rate, as per the long distance award at the moment, for a weekly rate is $886.54 based on your 38 hours.
888, did you say?
$886.54.
Yep.
That's pretty poor, isn't it? Okay, so
Yes,
if
it is.
that's the minimum rate. An hourly rate at the moment for when you're actually out driving is $34.58, which it's getting up there. It's not too bad, but if you're just on your minimum 8-hour day, how do you survive on that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
It's
no argument.
you
As you pointed out, Andrew,
Yeah.
our industry is very attractive once you start doing the hours, but we're the only industry that gets penalised for working overtime.
That's right. That's right. You get penalised, as I said before. Well, I don't believe they do it anymore, but we used to be able to get penalised for a spelling mistake.
Well, I'm led to believe you still do.
Okay,
Someone will correct me if that's wrong.
Yeah, well, I'll just stand correct if I'm wrong too, but I was told a while ago that they might have eased up on that. But you go and spell some of the names of the country towns around the country. I don't know how to spell them all correctly, but a law enforcement officer could come up and fine me for it.
If you spell the name of the town wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how ridiculous the
And
fines are.
We're not talking $3 or $4.
No, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of dollars. You probably, you can't quote me on the figure because I'm only taking a guesstimate at the moment, but you're probably looking at about $400 or $500
I'm sure someone will
fine.
correct the record for us.
Yeah, for a spelling mistake. Do you get fined for making a spelling mistake? Why should we? What other industry gets fined for something as minor as that? You could write it down with all the intentions to spell it right, and you get a fine.
Well, as came out earlier too, Andrew, that was brought to our attention that inspectors could flick back through logbooks to,
Well, they can.
3 months ago and find a wrong date, or wasn't a date, or something like that. And there'd be a week's pay is fine.
Yeah, that's the issue that I have too, that I know we have to hand in our copies of our work diaries, which is fine, I've got no problems with that, but an inspector can go into a company and say, give me 6 months worth of records for Andrew. He goes through and has a look at it. Oh, there's a mistake there. 6 months down the track, I'm copying a fine. What other industry gets fined like that?
That's right, yeah. It'd be nice if they go through the economic employers and do the same thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
How I screwed the trucking companies down. Wouldn't that be lovely?
Right. Oh, it would be great. It would be great. Like, as I've said here, I've unfortunately haven't had a lot of time to go through my own pay slips because I've been doing interstate, and having a quick look this morning before coming in here, I've already identified that I haven't been paid dangerous goods allowance for a couple of dangerous goods loads I've done. Where's the penalty for the company for that? But if I made that same sort of mistake in my work diary, I can be fined. Yeah. If I take that to the Fair Work Ombudsman, they'll get in touch with them and they'll give them a slap on the wrist and say, don't do that again.
I'm sure it's now on the public record that a phone call will fix it up with the employer.
Well, I will be pursuing this, and once I look into my hours, and I've got examples here. As I said, delayed 7 hours, and then later that night breakdown. And after I woke up, and it was about another 8 hours before we got the truck fixed. There's 15 hours within 24 hours that I've had no work, but I've got to wear that because our employment contract said we don't get paid for delays. Where else are you going to do it? As you said before, you're going to have a tradesman come and sit at your house for 15 hours waiting? No way, no one. But we're stuck with that vehicle. We're away from home. What else can we do? We can't go anywhere. So we've got to do it. It's wrong.
Andrew, on that, mate, I want to thank you very much on behalf of the Senator Rennick and myself, the committee,
Thank you
for
very much.
yourself. We know where to find you should we need to correct the record or we need further information. And good luck with the new job.
Good on you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew.